What's up, y'all? My name is Joey B. Welcome back to another edition of the Blind Knowledge Podcast. It is Friday. It is a lovely day. It is springtime, and we are bringing you a new event, a brand new interview, I guess you could say, with the man, the myth, the legend. His name is John Rooke. He's the voice of the Patriots. He is a journalist. He's director over at Dean College. If you know Dean College, you know that it's a good place to get your education on. And if you don't, check them out at dean.edu. A little bit about me. I own and operate Blind Knowledge. BlindKnowledge.com is the spot. That's hot. We have, we got so much. We have podcasts, live streaming, videos. We have a blog coming on the way. We have 19 active podcasts and 2 more being added today. So if you want to check us out at BlindKnowledge.com, please do. And enough about me and more on to the man, the myth, and again, the legend. This guy, I look up to John Rooke a lot because I'm a huge New England Patriots fan. I used to go as a kid with my grandfather. And now we get to learn more about him. So I'm going to bring him on right now. Mr. Rooke, welcome to the show.
Hey, Joe, thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
Hey, thank you for taking the time. It's
Sure.
It's a big plus. It's a big plus for everybody, and we're gonna figure out who the dude is under the cap.
I'm already in vacation mode, man.
Oh, that's fair.
I'll get here soon enough.
Right on.
Soon enough. That's where I like to spend my idle time with my wife. We like to spend our time down in the Keys.
Oh, that's nice.
Yeah.
That's very nice. That's got to be a change.
Yeah, we enjoy it.
Cool. I got to ask you this right off the bat. How did you get the gig to be the voice of the Patriots?
I don't think it's anything special, but the true story is that it was this was back in like 91, I think. I want to say it was 91. Because I was actually had just been laid off from a TV job, and so I was working as a crowd host, if you will. Chuck Wilson was a longtime sports talk radio host in New England, and he was doing live broadcast of his radio show on WPRO in Providence, and the guys at PRO who had hired me already the previous year, 2 years previous to that, as the radio voice of the Providence Friar basketball team. And they knew that, I'm looking for extra things to do. And they said, hey, why don't you come out and host the show that Chuck is doing? Because it's a live broadcast. And, and that way during the commercial breaks, or in commercial breaks, you can, do trivia with the fans. You can interact, whatever. Just come out and
Sure.
We'll pay you to do it. Right. And I'm
Okay.
like, okay, cool. I wanted something to do. So it kept me active. And it just so happened in the audience that night were 3 marketing executives for the Patriots.
Oh,
And
wow.
after the show was over, they pulled me aside and introduced themselves, and they had known that I had covered the Patriots because I had worked at the what is now the CBS affiliate in Providence. And they said, so have you ever done public speaking? And I said, well, yeah, I actually done quite a bit. I had actually done some public address work for a season in the NBA before that. And they said, well, we love how you project and love how you interact with the fans. And so we're actually looking for a new stadium voice, new public address announcer for Gillette Stadium. Not for Gillette, excuse me. This would have been 91. So this would have still been old
Foxborough Stadium. Yeah, with the metal benches. Yeah.
Oh boy, yeah, you remember those, right?
Oh,
and
yeah.
so so they said, so we're going to be auditioning. We're going to do auditions, right? But we want to make sure that you're a part of the audition because we really like you.
Wink, wink, nudge, nudge.
Right, one of those. And so I said, I'm flattered. Sure, I'd be happy to do whatever you want me to do. So for an exhibition game, preseason game that year, they had me come in, and I think there were 3 other candidates at the time. We all did a quarter of the game, right? And so I got to do the quarter, and then the next week they contacted me and said, "You're the guy. You're the one we want." And so I got it for, I think, starting in the 92 season. So I've been doing it for 31 years. Next year will be year 32 for me.
92. That's just before Drew came. Drew Bledsoe, right?
Right. Yeah, absolutely. I was there actually before the Crafts bought the team.
Oh, wow.
So, so I was already in place before the Kraft family purchased the team. So I was there for all of it, but I was there as well for, Bill Parcells' arrival and, all that stuff, which was really an amazing time to see, previously had been a moribund franchise develop. But the change, and the attitude around the entire franchise changed dramatically when Dwayne Charles Parcells arrived as head coach at that time.
Dwayne Charles.
Yep.
Interesting factoid there.
Yeah.
The tuna himself. And so how long did you actually have that specific gig as PA?
I've still got it.
You still have it? Okay. I wasn't sure about that. I wasn't sure if you were still going into this season being the PA announcer. Okay. We are ready for another Patriots first down then.
Yes. This will be year 32 for me.
32. Wow.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I mean, just the fact that you have that gig and are able to, like, that's just such a dream gig for anybody, not just a fan, but I think anybody that gets into voice acting, into audio, even like a musician would love that kind of gig. So, man, I look up to you for that one. That's awesome. And I got to ask you this. So how has your career gone since then? Like, what have you done to turn that opportunity into new opportunities? How did your road kind of pave itself?
Bumpy.
Wicked bumpy. Okay.
That's Joe. That's just the nature of the beast. In the broadcast business, anybody who's spent any time in and around it knows that it ebbs and flows. There are bumps in the road. There are really great times and there are really down times. There are times when you've got more work than you can shake a stick at, and then there are times when you're looking for work.
Sure.
So that's just kind of the nature of the beast, and you have to be able to stick through it and kind of ride through, those bumpy times in order to be able to make a career out of it. And I'm very fortunate that I've been doing this as a paid professional now for almost 47 years. And I started when I was 3 years old. So
wow.
no, not really. But I started as a teenager in this business,
right.
And in the journalism business. And my first on-air job was when I was 19. So that was 44, almost 45 years ago. And I'm 63 now. So that was something that I kind of fell into, and it's another story for another day, perhaps, or another moment. But
this is the moment, John. This is the moment right now.
I'll be honest. Some of it is just kind of useless, banter. But to get back to your original question,
sure.
It was, falling into this was, the overall aspect of it was I started out in television, even though my background was in writing. I went to school on a journalism scholarship, and I wanted to be a sports writer. And then I didn't really get into broadcasting until it was my night to lay out our newspaper at the University of Texas in Austin, which is where I went to school. And it was my night as assistant sports editor of the Daily Texan to lay out the paper. And I got a release that night from the women's athletic department, because back in the late 70s, the women's and men's athletic departments were separate. They were sort of segregated. This was just in the time right after Title IX had become prevalent and become law, in the country. And they were going to hold, the women's athletic department was going to hold a campus-wide audition for the very first radio voice of the Texas women's basketball team, the Lady Longhorns. And I remember thinking at the time, shoot, that would be a blast to do. Even though I wasn't really a broadcast major, I was a journalism major. But I had just finished an internship the summer before, working for a very large radio station in Houston, KTRH Radio in Houston. And so I said, you know what the hell? I'll take a shot. I sent him an audition tape from some of the stuff that I had done at the radio station in Houston. And lo and behold, I got called in. The audition was there. I won the audition, which was amazing to me. And I was the very first voice of the Lady Longhorns back in 1979. And they were preseason ranked #1 in the nation that year.
Oh, wow.
So,
wow.
Yeah, and they ended up winning their first national title. It was after I graduated. They won their first national title in '86, I think it was, under Coach Conrad, who is a basketball Hall of Famer now. But that's how it really all started, to be honest with you, and that's what got me into broadcasting. And then, I moved into television from radio after that. After I got out of school,
And
working
that's a whole
for.
different game too.
Yeah,
You're going
well,
from
it
audio
is, but
to
that's
visual.
when I got that job doing the radio. I'm like, I think I really want to take a look at this whole broadcast thing. So I started taking TV stuff as well and doing radio broadcast, working for the campus station, doing all that stuff. And so I started taking the broadcast labs as well, the television, and discovered I really liked it, really enjoyed it. And some of my people that I looked up to in the business, Joey, were TV people, TV personalities, sports anchors at the time. The guy that I really sort of loved to model myself after at the time was a guy that I'm sure that your listeners will know, Vern Lundquist, who spent years and years at CBS as the voice of the SEC. Still
Yeah.
does some golf for them from time to time.
Yeah.
Did
Yeah.
the PGA Tour at a very high level for a long time. But Vern was the weeknight sports guy at WFAA Channel 8 in Dallas, and the radio voice of the Dallas Cowboys at the time. And
Wow.
so I thought, what better job on the planet is there than the job that he had, right?
Oh my
And,
God. Yeah.
yeah, right. And so I sort of that's who I wanted to be, and followed him and a lot of other guys that were working in the Dallas Fort Worth market where I grew up and went to high school. Were people that I really wanted to be like. So that's what I decided I wanted to study. And my first job in the business after I got out of school was as a sports reporter and anchor for the NBC station in Waco and Temple, Texas, which is
Waco.
KCN, Channel 6 in Temple and Waco, Texas. And spent 2 great years in there, and lightning struck. And I was at the right place, right time, through contacts that you make. So really, in all honesty, the way that you succeed in this business is by networking. It's not what you know, but it's who you know, and then of course the other end of that is who knows you. And so I was big into that. I was always introducing, shaking hands. We didn't have social media. We didn't have email back then, obviously. So it was really difficult to network other than meeting people face to face and going up there to them face to face and shaking their hand and going eyeball to eyeball and say, if there's anything I can ever do, let me know. Right. That's how it worked. And then 2 years after being at that station in Waco, I was working in the NBA for the San Antonio Spurs. So that's how it kind of took off for me.
Yeah, it took off like a rocket ship.
Yeah.
Wow, and you haven't slowed down at all.
Well, a little maybe, but it's because I found an area of the country that I really enjoyed being in. I mean, and you're talking to a kid who grew up in Texas and who went to the University of Texas, and I consider the home for my soul being in Austin, Texas, and in Fort Worth, Texas, where my family is still largely located. But I've spent, now 34, almost 35 years exactly, now here in the Northeast. And part of that, actually 35 years next month in May. And it's because I loved being in this medium area. I've worked in Providence, Boston, Hartford, New York. And they're all up and down I-95, real easy to get to, right?
Yeah,
And
that's
so
the whole
it's a
span right there.
Yeah, it's a unique area of the country. Very few other portions, other geographic blocks of the country where you can say that you can do this. And I was just lucky to be in that position and know these people. And I happen to work in TV and radio in all of these markets. And I just, I decided I wanted to stay here. I had my kids here. I met the love of my life here.
Oh, there you go.
So, I mean,
Once you do that, it's game over.
yeah, exactly. And I got to admit, I got to be honest, even though I was, a Texan, born and raised, love the great state of Texas, but I love living by the ocean, man. I do.
Oh, the water.
I
Yeah.
love living by the water. There's just something mesmerizing by it. And so there's nothing better than a Friday night out on the dock, sipping a cold one and and watching the sunset, man. That's hard to beat. Once you've had it, it's hard to beat.
Yeah, that sounds really good. A nice boat ride by the dock, just kind of see the stars. It sounds pretty nice for sure.
Yeah, totally.
So you were a big sports fan growing up, I'm assuming.
Oh yeah. I was what I would call, I was a geeky nerd.
Geeky nerd, okay. Back before it was cool.
Yeah. Oh, no question. Look,
Yeah.
I told this story to one of my students, in fact, earlier today, because I had class this morning, and I mentioned to him, I said, look, you cannot geek me. You can't. There's just no way. Because I love basketball, and I that's what I normally played. Because I was just too small really to play anything else. I love football, but I kept getting the snot knocked out of me. I figured I better find something else. So basketball was my sport to play, but when I was preteen, early teen, my grandmother allowed me to have one room in her house that she had set up really as kind of a sewing room, and I got to put all my stuff up on the wall. So I had charts, I had stats, I had graphics, I had, photos, I had newspaper articles. It was crazy, and it was like I was playing, the part of the Princeton professor in A Beautiful Mind. I had all this stuff, that was up on the walls,
Sure.
and that's how I nerded out.
Right on.
And so she let me do this, and she nurtured that. And so I give my grandmother a lot of credit for allowing me to do that, to allow me to be a geek and to feel good about myself. And so I used a lot of that useless knowledge to get me started when I got into high school.
I'm assuming big box score reader.
Oh yeah.
Runs, hits.
Oh, yeah. I played Stratomatic, dude. I played,
Stratomatic.
I'm rolling the dice and I'm playing Stratomatic, and I'm, oh yeah, absolutely. I was big into that kind of stuff. So I was doing fantasy baseball before fantasy baseball.
I was just gonna ask you about fantasy baseball, and used to be huge and probably still is trading cards.
Oh my God. Yes. And when I finally figured out that they were better off being not being in the spokes of my bicycle.
Yeah.
Okay. Because you could make the flap, flap, flap sound like you had an engine or a motor going, right? When I figured out that, these might be worth something someday, I immediately took them out of the spokes and started learning how to preserve them. And the funny thing about it is that my younger brother, actually spent a number of years in the sports collectible business.
Oh, wow.
And one of his business partners, about a decade and a half, maybe 2 decades ago, was Bobby Valentine.
Wow.
They first met and became business partners when Bobby Valentine was actually managing the Texas Rangers.
Okay.
And so I had a bunch of those cards that we kept, and I gave off to him, and he was able to make some decent profit over the time. And my wife right now, she's got a hidden stash, believe it or not, of baseball cards,
really?
of which, oh gosh, she's probably got a dozen or more that she could probably get rid of for 3 figures a card, easy.
Wow, we'll have to check the Beckett.
Right? And if we ever take the time to do that and actually get the cards rated, then I think that they would probably actually be worth some good money. So
that's cool.
Fortunately for me, I married a big baseball fan and a big baseball card collector, so that helps.
That's fair.
Yeah,
that's fair. And being intertwined in the New England Patriots, you must get a chance to go, mingle with some of the Sox and the upper echelon of the Sox, the players. Do you ever go over to Fenway just to kind of see the game, or hang around?
We go to a few games a year. I don't really, mingle so much with players, only because as a member of the media, that's just sort of verboten. Because we have access. We have access that people don't usually get. When you're a member of the credentialed media, I mean, have I become friendly with some guys over the years? Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely.
But there's a line.
Yeah, I mean, there's a line that you have to draw between being a friend and being professional. And so you have what we call working professional relationships, which where you can be friendly, but do we go out and bust beers together? Do we have dinner at each other's house? No, we don't do that. Do I? We certainly don't ask for autographs. I've never asked for anybody for a photo either. Of course, nowadays it's easy, right, with these to get selfies and things like that. But you just don't do that, because you're in a position that could put them at a disadvantage, because they feel like, well, they're being a jerk if they don't say something to you. And yet you're in a position that, people don't normally get. So I've never, ever, ever taken advantage of that. And I think most media people feel the same way.
Yeah. Smart. Don't burst the bubble, right?
Yeah. You don't ever want to put yourself in a position where you have to be critical of someone's performance after, hey, they just took the time to pose for a picture and give you an autograph. Now, how awkward is that going to be? And you got to bust somebody's, what's. That's just not right. It's not right. It's not proper. It's unethical. And plus that erodes your credibility as a member of the media. I mean, because if you're buddy with someone, then you can't do your job. And if you can't do
Yeah, you
the
can't be
job
very
that you need to
objective.
do, how are you going to have any credibility with your audience, your
Right.
readership, your listenership, right?
Right. Yeah, you wouldn't be able to give them the whole,
Nope.
the story. You'd
Nope.
be, it'd be mixed.
Right. So we draw the line on that one. And so that's sort of the penance you pay for being, relatively close to these guys. I mean, I could tell you stories, many stories of occasions where I walk up and down the hallways at Gillette and, I'm bumping fists with Tom Brady, or I'm stopping and talking for a moment to Bill Belichick or whomever. And, they don't really know me from Adam, but they know I hang around there a lot. So they always stop, with a familiar face or a familiar voice in my case. And hey, how's it going? What's happening today? Nothing but the grind. Okay, well, that's cool. Keep hanging and blah, blah, blah. And then you
Yeah.
move on and you got to do your thing. So,
Well, that's cool. It's such a good, it's a good perspective, and it's good to be talking to someone like yourself with a good perspective. Shout out to everyone listening to us and watching us over on YouTube, Facebook, Twitch. We're on LinkedIn. We're on Twitter. If you got a question for Mr. John Rooke, just leave it here in the chat. You can also text us at 877-237-1143. John, you have a pretty cool role over at Dean College, where you're a director of. Well, what's your actual title over there?
It's kind of unwieldy, so I'm glad
It's long. Yeah, I don't want to mess it up.
Remember it either.
Yeah.
I'm director of the Center for Business, Entertainment, and Sport Management.
Very cool.
Dean was, kind enough to bring me in. I'd spent the previous 10 years, the first 10 years of my teaching career at Emerson College in Boston, which is
great school.
well known for communications arts, right?
Yeah, great school.
Yeah, and so Dean brought me in 2015 to head up this Center for Business, Entertainment, and Sport Management, and that really is because we have sport management, we have sports marketing, and we have communications and sports broadcasting, all as majors at Dean, which is a little unusual because Dean is a very small liberal arts school. If you don't know anything about it, we've only got 1,200 undergraduate students,
Right.
Located in little bucolic Franklin, Massachusetts.
Lovely Franklin, yeah.
Lovely Franklin. It's just across the border, in northern Rhode Island, from like Woonsocket, Rhode Island. If you're looking for a geographic, location here, Franklin is right on the T, coming out of Boston, heading westward. So, it's a great little town. The campus is beautiful. It's what you would consider, if you think quintessential New England liberal arts college, red brick, ivy.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
That's what it is. And it's a gorgeous little school. And 8 years ago or so, they made 10 years ago, actually, is when it first started. They made the decision that we want to get into sports. We want to teach sports because the business of sports has grown exponentially, not only in this country, but all over the world, as we all know. It's a multi-billion-dollar industry. Now, 30 or 40 years ago, sports was an afterthought. Sports, you could make a little money, but most business people looked at sports with somewhat of a bemused attitude and just kind of like, we're not going to take it seriously. It's kind of like sports was considered the toy department of life. Right. Hey, okay, well, it's just sports. Right. But people realize now that you can make serious quid in the sports world. Serious. I mean,
Sure.
Millions, billions of dollars. I mean, what do you think?
Industry.
What do you think college athletes now are getting paid through, name, image, and likeness money?
They're a millionaire college athletes right now. It's amazing.
There's just more money than anybody is really aware of. And so Dean wanted to teach this. There are jobs out here in this professional industry. There are jobs here where people can actually do quite well in the sports industry through marketing, through promotions, through communications, through management, through coaching, through scouting, through athletic training, through so many different aspects of sports. Dean did this, and they approached the Patriots, and they're like, how could we work together? How could we help you, build your own workforce? And the Kraft family, to their credit, man, they're like, that's a great idea. We should do that. And so they announced this partnership, a first of its kind academic partnership between a local school and an NFL franchise. We're the first NFL team to do this, right? And first school to do this with an NFL team. And then they hired me soon thereafter to manage this partnership, this relationship. And so it's all about creating our opportunities for our students who come to Dean, who want to work and learn in any of these particular industries. And of course, we open up our academic partnerships to a lot of other entities as well. Hockey, baseball, basketball, businesses, all kinds of things all over the place, but that are all touched somewhat by sports and athletics. And so that's kind of what I do is I manage this partnership for our students. I place our students and help position them in internships. And certainly, I teach curriculum. We have a sports broadcasting major at Dean, one of the smallest schools in the country to have that, but we're able to do that because of me being there and the people that I have. So my goal has been to make Dean College in Franklin, Massachusetts, a small school version really of, some of those powerhouses that are out there. Like,
go Bulldogs.
Northwestern and Missouri and Syracuse and, in some of the big time schools that are out there. In my own alma mater, Texas, these are all large schools, but why can't a small school do it? Largely because a small school, as I'm sure you're aware, Joe, a small school sometimes doesn't have the personnel or the infrastructure in place in order to be able to sustain a program like that. Mm-hmm. We have that at Dean. We have a campus radio station. We have our digital television studios. We have someone who has, connections and the wherewithal within the industry, myself and the other professors that I work with. We're all active in the business. We're all still active in the business. So mm-hmm. I can't think of a school right now that has more street cred really in terms of people who are actively working in the business than what we have at Dean. And there's some great programs out there. I mean, UMass has a great sports marketing program. BU and Northeastern have very good, communications programs in Boston. Emerson obviously has a huge communications program in Boston. They have a good comm program at University of Rhode Island as well. So, but I don't think any of those beat what we do from top to bottom just because of the personnel we have and the opportunities we offer and the relationships professionally that we've aligned with.
Yeah, it seems like it's close knit. It seems like it's close knit. You have very hands on. It must be hands on with such a small amount of, it's just a small program.
We are very much roll up the sleeves and go to work.
You go right in there. Yeah, I noticed you guys already have some students that are doing Providence hockey. Is that true?
Yeah. We have. Wow. I have students on Friday nights. Who call hockey for the Providence Bruins in the American Hockey League. And for those that aren't aware, the Providence Bruins are the AHL affiliate for the Boston Bruins. It's like AAA baseball.
Yeah, right.
It's AAA hockey. And I have students that call games on Friday nights. Yeah. So, they train, they study, they work at it. And, we're not going to, put students out there that can't do the job. But I've got 2 or 3 kids they could go to work in the pros tomorrow. They're ready to roll. And that's what That's
we do. Pretty cool.
Our students do all the work. Our students, they do all of our, we have, we're an NCAA Division III athletic department. So our students call football, basketball, baseball, softball, lacrosse, field hockey, soccer, everything, and hockey. Even though we don't have a hockey program at Dean, we align ourselves because we have a lot of students who either played hockey, who are interested in hockey because, hey, we're in the Northeast, right? And so we have aligned ourselves with several, junior programs as well, in addition to the AHL Providence Bruins. And our students are getting hockey play-by-play experience all over the place. So it's working out real well.
Well, it's exciting stuff. And now, how hands-on are you? Are you an actual professor there as well? Mm-hmm. Or do you have like actual alternate professors comes in or special guests?
All of the above. I run a sports broadcasting program at Dean. So we have right now, again, you're talking about, about 11 to 1,200 undergraduate students at Dean. Our communications program has about 10% of those. And out of that 10%, we've got between 50 and 60 sports broadcasting majors. So we've got, some burgeoning, Joe Bucks. And they're
some women and men in the bullpen ready to go.
Yes, we do. And these kids are all out in the summertime working in summer baseball programs. I just one of my former students just got a job as the play-by-play voice of a minor league baseball team in High Point, North Carolina. We're sending a couple of kids out on job interviews to be production assistants for baseball teams, to work in their in-stadium, digital broadcasting realm. So a lot of stuff that
Well, that's great. It sounds like a great opportunity for
Yeah.
the students as well. I want to swing back over more to your career just so we can learn a little bit more and hopefully inspire some of these students of yours. Wink, wink, nudge, nudge. Maybe they'll check us out right here on the Blind Knowledge Podcast. Shout out to you guys over there at Dean College. But can you give us, I don't know, maybe two or three really spectacular highlight moments within your career? Just things that just jump out to you that are like, I'm so glad this happened.
Sure. Well, first of all, I'm very lucky to have to work for an organization that's won 6 Super Bowls. So in my time, I've actually hosted and been at the mic for 8 AFC championship games, and 7 of those we've won. So each of those have been, signature moments for me. And
that's incredible.
I was just mentioning, in fact, one of the first ones that I did back when the Patriots, 2001, 2002, so it would have been 2002. So it would have been the first year at Gillette Stadium, for the season opener that year, when, you play the Thursday night game, right? Sir Elton John was the musical guest at Gillette. He made the appearance there. With his, they had his piano and everything right up in the south end of the stadium, spotlights, everything is on him. And I believe the game we were broadcasting on, I want to say it was on ABC. I can't remember at the time if it was an ABC game, ESPN ABC game.
So wait, they got Elton John up in the air with his piano?
He's up on above he's above the end zone, overlooking where the Optum Club is now, if you know anything about Gillette.
Yeah.
And all the spotlights are on, and so I had to wait for a cue from ABC, and so I'm going live to a worldwide audience introducing Sir Elton John. And I got to admit, that still gives me chills thinking that I got a chance to do that. And
that's the kind of stuff I was wondering and hoping for with this question, because that is like a life-changing highlight moment, whether you are a sports broadcaster, journalist, or just a person in general doing whatever, picking up trash. If you're able to see a highlight moment like that, that is huge. All right, give me another one, John. What else we got here?
Well, that moment actually led me to, getting other voiceover work, with NBC, with ESPN, with several other entities. So that was a perk in itself, just because, you're working with cues, you're working with producers, and like, hey, you sound good. I got a project that you might be interested in. And so that kind of started, some voiceover stuff. And that's something that I'll probably try to look to do a little bit more of when I'm
trying to get into that world myself.
Broadcasting and teaching, because you can kind of do it almost a little bit on your own time, or at least more so on your own time. As a broadcaster, for Providence College, in the Big East, it's, major college, high major Division I basketball. I'd have to say that, the Friars winning Big East championships and the team being in the NCAA tournament, those are all signature moments. When I was a younger man, in fact, it was my first year as an announcer for the San Antonio Spurs in the NBA. I'm all of 23 years old when I got this job, but it was a good, right place, right time. Took advantage of it, and it was the night that the Spurs clinched the Midwest Division Championship, and so it was my first taste of winning a title. And this, for the Spurs, if you know anything about the Spurs or the NBA back in that early 80s timeframe, they were already successful, but they were winning division titles. They were getting to the conference finals, and they couldn't beat the Lakers.
Mm-hmm.
Couldn't beat the Lakers. Now, the Spurs have actually ended up, they've won 4 NBA championships, I think, since that point in time, but that was well after, unfortunately, I left the team and moved up to the Northeast. But they were becoming old hat at that. So it wasn't any big deal. They were trying to treat it as, hey, been there, done that, right? So I went into the locker room right after I got off the air, and because one of the marketing guys said, hey, I need you in the locker room. Can you come in and help me out with something? I'm like, sure, because back then, you helped out everywhere. It was really a mom and pop shop, the way that they ran things. But I enjoyed it because I learned so much about how a professional franchise is run, right? And so I go into the locker room, and George Gervin, the Iceman himself, he's sitting, he's standing right there in his locker. I think there was no like celebration. There wasn't any like, stuff. There was no thing. These guys were like, they were pros. And I was so in awe of that. And my buddy was over standing next to Ice. We all love to call him Ice, right? Who doesn't? I mean,
that is a killer nickname.
That's one of like the coolest nicknames
ever, right? It is.
And so Ice is sitting there, and and so I said, "Hey, congratulations, Ice!" And so he says, "You want a picture?" Well, let me see. Now, do I want a picture? That's a loaded question. But I said, I shouldn't be doing this. He's like, you work for the team. So Jim, my buddy, the marketing guy, he has the camera in hand already, and I'm sensing a setup because I see guys start to hover around where we're doing the photo. And so Ice and I are taking this picture, and I'm shaking him with the Soul Brother handshake, right? And then as soon as Jim snaps it, he goes, "Okay, we're good." Immediately, boom, guys start jumping and yelling, and I get doused with champagne and beer, and that's when the celebration starts.
Sure. Wow.
And I and of course I'm wearing a tie and a blazer. And of course,
you didn't have a poncho on?
Oh, I had my my work clothes on because I had just gotten off the television broadcast. I was doing the cable TV coverage of the Spurs when they clinched the Midwest Division title that night. And so it was a setup. They just said, "Hey, let me call the rookie in here," because I was the rookie to everybody, and I'm always the rookie with a last name like I got, right? And they set it up for me, and it was one of the most memorable moments I will ever have. That I got doused with beer and champagne by the Spurs when they won the Midwest Division title in 1983.
Wow, that's pretty cool.
Yeah, pretty cool.
And even through a moment like that, you still go to celebrations even to this day. Just like you said, you've had all the Patriots.
They're old hat now.
Yeah,
I know how to act.
We're so lucky.
You try to act like you've been there.
Yes,
and that's and I think that's the way that you should do it. But it never gets old. It never gets. I mean, everything that we've done, every championship game, that we've hosted at Gillette, every game that I get a chance to broadcast in the postseason, on radio or TV, everything that we do, it's a pleasure, it's a privilege. I just, it's just, man, I got to tell you, it's truly been a perk professionally to me, and I will never, ever, ever take it for granted because so many people don't get a chance to experience that. I'm one of the very lucky ones.
That's a beautiful thing right there. How about some inspiration or some advice for any aspiring broadcasters, voiceovers? I don't know what the proper linguistics is there, but just someone trying to get into the industry, or maybe is in the industry, maybe working on Fiverr, Upwork, just trying to find work. What kind of advice would you give them?
Network your ass off. I really can't put it any more succinctly.
Yeah.
It's so much easier nowadays to network, with the internet. So you can, do that, through social media, as long as you can take social media, seriously for a moment or two, because obviously a lot of people use it to goof on others and to pick on others and use it for the wrong reasons. But social media is a great tool. LinkedIn is a marvelous tool. So I try to connect with as many people. I usually don't turn down requests on LinkedIn, even if I don't know people, because I know people want to make professional connections. And you just don't know when you might be able to use somebody yourself. You don't know when you might be able to connect with somebody that might be able to help you.
And I find that people like to connect.
Yeah. So, LinkedIn is great. And then I use Twitter professionally. Twitter can be a cesspool sometimes, just like all of them can be. But I use Twitter professionally, and I try to keep things above board. And I found that I don't follow every Tom, Dick, and Harry out there. But at the same time, I wouldn't expect everyone to follow me either, unless you felt like you could gain some use from following me. And look, I use social media for entertainment purposes, like everybody. I do. Some of them, really make me, hashtag LOL, right? I mean, and I love it, and it's fun. because it's a great way to spend some idle time. But I try not to get too caught up in it. And I remember that I'm there for a reason. I am there for a professional purpose as well. So, and of course, Twitter is where a lot of news outlets and news entities break stories anyway. And so that's why I follow a lot of people on Twitter. But between Twitter and LinkedIn, yeah, I keep a Facebook profile. Yes, I have an Instagram profile, but that's about as much as I can handle. I never got onto TikTok, and I'll tell you why. I just don't have the time for it.
You don't strike me as a TikToker, although it would be an interesting,
all of my students all of my students are on TikTok, because that's where
it's at today. Yeah, today it's all
that generation.
About TikTok.
They're all TikTokers, and I get it. But I tell them, guys, I've got more than I can handle. So if you want to reach me on social media, best thing I can tell you is either A, get a Twitter handle, or B, follow me on Instagram. And then we can converse that way, and we can do business that way, and we can share that way, we can promote that way. But I find that Instagram is probably at least a sort of a medium ground. I'm not, so square that, I do have a Facebook profile, but I use my Facebook mostly for personal stuff,
Sure.
And I find that most old people, quote unquote old, they use Facebook still for that as well. But I know a lot of people aren't on Facebook because of that, because younger people tend to go to some of the newer social media outlets that are out there, which is fine. So I find that Instagram is kind of halfway in between, which is why I keep an active, Instagram profile and try to go that route. But I didn't get on Snapchat, I won't do TikTok. Yeah. And it's not because I hate it. I just don't have the time for it. I feel like if I'm going to put an effort into it, I need to put some effort into it and keep up the profile, incentivize somebody to actually follow me. Right. Mm-hmm. And if I don't feel like I could do that, I'm not going to waste your time as well as mine. So that's why I keep Facebook for personal stuff, even though some professional stuff just slide over. And then Twitter and Instagram and LinkedIn. I should consider LinkedIn because it is social media as well. And LinkedIn is all professional. It's strictly professional, which is what I like about it. So I would say network using, your social media profiles like that, and reach out to people. But don't reach out to people and say, hey, can I have a job?
Yeah.
It's not the way to do it. Reach out to people and say, hey, I really, love what you do. Followed you for a while, and hopefully you have, and you're not, lying to them. And just say, hey, you got any advice for someone who's trying to break into this? Engage people. Mm-hmm. That's really all you need to do, because a lot of people love to give their opinions. A lot of people love to give their opinions.
Well, everybody's got an opinion. Yeah, everyone's got an opinion.
Opinions are like belly buttons. Everybody's got one.
A lot of belly buttons. A lot of belly buttons.
Just engage them, ask them their opinion, and you'd be surprised at how many people would love to give you their take. And I think in that instance, then if you develop some kind of relationship and something pops and they remember you from a previous occasion, hey, guess what? You're already halfway ahead of the game. This is how you get gigs.
Oh, that's good advice. I'm actually going to take on some of that advice, because I'm always looking to get further into this industry and see if I can make it, an ongoing full-time career.
Well, you're already starting by doing the podcast, okay?
Yeah.
You're already starting and trying to brand yourself, with the whole Blind Knowledge podcast. I mean, that's good.
Appreciate that.
You're developing a brand, you're developing a persona, and you're giving something for someone to sink their teeth into. Mm-hmm. And this is something that I would teach my own students. They're learning how to brand themselves, create their own radio shows, create their own pods, and they're learning skills that can translate, certainly in the broadcast industry, Joe, but outside of the broadcast industry. I mean, I know the bank down the street, they got a website, and the general manager wants to run a podcast or wants to do, a video stream or whatever. And so you could come over and manage, the bank or the grocery store or the lawyer's office, their website by doing their social media or by doing, their digital media. I mean, that's the beauty of this business.
Yeah, social media managers, that's a big job right now all over LinkedIn when you're looking for work. digital media manager is something where I'd kind of fly and slip right in there, which is I've actually been looking into that to see if we can do more of that for businesses, because you take the podcast supplements the business or the book or whatever the service
supports what you're doing.
Right.
And so that's the beauty of the digital media age here in the 21st century. It goes beyond terrestrial radio and television, whereas those jobs, have always been difficult really to get. The industry, the broadcast industry, goes well beyond this day and age of traditional terrestrial media. The net is the net, man.
Yeah.
There's so much opportunity out there. You can carve your own niche. YouTubers do that, right?
Yeah.
Some YouTubers make a lot of money, and we know this. And shoot, if I could figure out how to do it myself, I will.
They do.
No lie, right?
But it's no lie. It's all real, and I think it has to do with being in multiple places. So like YouTubers are a lot of times on TikTok, and they're on Snapchat, and they're also have a podcast. So it's like you're spread out, within different platforms, I guess you could say.
Right.
It's branding. It's like you said. It's about having a personal 100%. Brand. Blind knowledge is a thing.
Yeah.
Joe Burkoff is just a guy, but blind knowledge is like a brand.
Right, and that's what you have to do
to
continue to push your brand. Is for Joe Burkoff to increase, his abilities through the brand.
Right. Exactly. And I appreciate you saying that. That's great advice for me, and hopefully that slips down and trickles down to anybody else listening. John Rooke, I'm going to let you go, man, because I know you got things to do, and I so appreciate you taking the time. I'm so glad we could finally get this to happen.
Well, I'm privileged you asked me, so thank you for the time, and thank you for the great line of questioning and the chance to promote what we do at Dean and a little about what I still do professionally. I've had a great ride. I'm looking forward to a few more years, and hey, if I can help, by all means, you can follow me on Twitter at JR Broadcaster, right? That's also my handle on Instagram at JR Broadcaster. And what else do I want to promote? Nothing.
Well, if there is anything else you want to promote, just let me know, and I'll get it up on our social media for you too.
Love it. Find me on LinkedIn too. You want to find me on LinkedIn as well? I'd be happy to, to hook up with you that way. And like I said, that's a great tool to do that. And I am all about networking. That's one thing that I really preach. So I'm happy to be a contact for anybody that feels like they want a little bit of a boost, in their industry travels.
That's amazing. All right, everybody. John Rooke, we're going to let him go right now. John, we'll see you next time.
Thanks, Joe. It's been my...
Oh, there he goes. Wow. That's a guy that I look up to and had to look up to because I used to go to Patriots games as a kid with my grandfather, my uncle, and it's like, who's doing the voiceovers? Who's that guy in the loudspeaker? For another Patriots first down, that was John Rooke, man. He's a broadcaster. He's the voice of Patriots. He's a journalist. He's an all-around good fellow, and he's over at Dean College, too. Check out Dean College if you look to get into broadcasting. This has been another edition, another episode, another groovy time here on the Blind Knowledge Podcast. Check us out over at blindknowledge.com. My name is Joey B. I am going to go.